The NBA playoffs start April 16th, and with the play-in games, there are now 20 teams vying for the NBA championship. The 2022 playoffs give you up to 9 weeks of action, with game number 1 of the NBA Finals not even tipping off until June 2nd. Last year, the NBA playoff package was listed for $249, but we've made it even better this year by lowering the entire 9-week playoff package to $199. While the early bird catches the worm may be a cliche, but it holds true to this incredible offer. The first 99 customers can use the coupon code FIRST99 and save an additional $50 off the playoff package, dropping the price down to $149. That's right, 9 weeks of NBA action for $149. That's under $17 per week. Act fast to use code FIRST99, as only the first 99 customers can use this code.
4. What's up, guys? The Masters is over, but golf does not stop. We are back for another episode of Tee Time from Vegas. I'm Nick Borrman of WagerTalk.com. With me, as always, Andy Lang, here to talk this week's tournament, the RBC Heritage. But of course, we'll touch a little bit about the Masters and all that went down last week, because it was an awesome tournament as everybody expected, and it's my favorite week of the year. So I don't want to let it go too soon. I got to hang on to it for a little bit. It's the one week I can get anything I want from my wife. Well, not anything, there's certain things she still says no to, but you get the idea. I get away with a lot more. Andy, welcome, buddy. How are you? Besides golf, you're on a hell of a heater right now. So congrats to you there. And how are you doing? What do you have going on? What do you have up on your page right now besides golf plays for the week?
Well, NBA is the play-in tournaments start Tuesday, and so we got a few days before the NBA playoffs hit, but it's just been a unbelievable run. We finished the regular season in the NBA on a 16-2 run for our player props, which we're really proud of. Golf package, I love the tournaments this week. I love the plays. I couldn't narrow it down to one play of the week. I have 2 of them, so that's included in the golf pack this week. Those plays are all up. Baseball is just getting started, but it's a fantastic week, and congratulations to you. You got the outright winner. So, and I know you had a great week, and I know you enjoyed it. It was such a great tournament. It was right up your alley. Tiger makes the cut. You hit the outright winner. So hats off to you. And as I said, if Tiger made the cut, I would wear the red shirt and the black hat for Tiger Sunday.
You look damn good in red, Andy. I will give you that. I appreciate you owning up to it. But listen, I could have been dead wrong too, and then it happens. He did as I expected. He did what you think he would do at a course that he's loved over the years, and clearly he was hurt and tired as the week went on, and it probably affected him the last couple of days as he played. So that was the bet, I think, if you were going to make on him, was maybe he can survive 2 days, and then probably not going to expect much more after that. But anyway, we move on, and we're going to talk here at the RBC Heritage. First, let me just go back. I just want to say 115% that you're up right now in the last 30 days, Andy. Remarkable. I mean, doubling your bankroll in a year is an aggressive goal, but doing it in 30 days is ridiculous. So if the viewers out there, if you haven't picked up Andy's package for NBA especially, which has been rolling, definitely go check him out. All right, let's talk a little golf. As always, we'll start off with a little business. We do have a promo going on for this week's tournament, the RBC Heritage. We have our weekly package up for $39. You can grab that for just $19. Use promo code Heritage20. Saves you $20 off the regular price, so you can grab that at WagerTalk.com. Go to either myself or Andy Lang's page to check that out. And as Andy said, he's got a couple best bets already loaded up in there. I have a couple outrights, and I have a 5% play, rare golf 5% play, just the third so far of the year, included in that package. So definitely some good value on either one. So head over to WagerTalk.com to check that. All right, Andy, let's before we get into the breakdown of this week, as always, let's talk a little bit about last week. We'll start, of course, with our best and worst bets, and I know there's a few things you want to hit on from the Masters in general. So what were your good, bad, and ugly from last week, your best bets and your worst bets?
Well, for my best bet, I'm just going to say fading Matthew Wolff. That guy is just struggling. I was so happy he was in this week. I took Cameron Champ head-to-head against him, and I even got plus 105 on Cameron Champ against him. And then on one of the websites had Matthew Wolff to miss the cut at minus 105. It couldn't have gotten easier than that. I will also say Bryson to miss the cut was pretty easy pickings there. So be honest, look back, I wish I would have just stuck to those two. I could have gone all in on those and just had a really nice easy week with 3 bets and called it a day after Friday. But no, I had to go and take my worst bet, which was Tiger to miss the cut. I'm actually, you know what? I'm glad he made the cut. I lost a bet, but there were so many people that cashed on him making the cut that I am perfectly fine with losing my bet because I know how many other people won their bet on that one. So on that note, I'm glad. That being said, I do have to say I don't want to see Tiger limping that bad as he did that last round. And then especially afterwards, that was hard to watch, Nick. That was reminiscent of Muhammad Ali at the end. Some of these athletes where it just hurts to watch him. I didn't like that when he left the course and you saw him hugging his mom and his kids there and just how hard it was to watch. I hope he keeps getting healthy. I don't want to see that Tiger again. It was fun to have him in a tournament. I don't want to see that limping Tiger around. So.
Yeah, it was very reminiscent of my grandmother 2 weeks ago trying to climb 2 steps from the garage into the house. So yeah, it didn't look so hot. But listen, hopefully, I guess it was aggressive. Maybe is the right word, or just it was a tough ask for him to get around that course. Obviously, one of the hilliest courses they're going to play all year long. So definitely, from a physical standpoint, tough course to come back to. But glad to see he got through the 4 days. It'll be interesting to see how long now he takes off to recover before he thinks he might try to come back and tee it up again. But glad he was back. Everybody enjoyed it. A lot of people made some money on it. The books definitely took some heavy action on Tiger for the week, and just happy he's back in the game. This week, or for me, I guess my best bet, you already hit it, was Scottie Scheffler. Got the outright on him, so thrilled about that. I really had a very, very good week. I almost had a clean sweep. It wasn't even a bad bet, but I have to just choose something as my worst bet. It was just a bad beat, I guess you could say. It was Hovland. I had him as a top 20, which he was in there through 71 holes. And then on 18 on Sunday, he doubled bogeys 18 to fall out of the top 20. So it was a rough way to end that bet. But so listen, I'm scratching for something. It was a tough loss, but ultimately still a fantastic week. So hopefully we can carry that over as we move into the Heritage. But before we get to that, Andy, you had a few notes you wanted to mention, things I guess that we may have missed from last week.
Yeah, just a couple of interesting little tidbits. The first one I'll get to, Tommy Fleetwood, he finished 14th. That's his best finish ever at the Masters. So we saw Fleetwood actually, he's having a great year. I bring this up because he's having a great year, and then he has his best finish at the Masters. Also, here's one I bet nobody noticed. Did you know JJ Spawn finished 23rd?
There was it was either on Thursday or Friday. He was something bad. He was like 3 over really quickly. And I'm like, oh yeah, not surprised he's not going to make the cut. And then all of a sudden they were talking about him on Saturday. I was like paying attention to the coverage, doing something on the side. I'm like, wait, he's still here? Like looked over at the
JJ
TV.
Spawn, he wins the Valero to qualify and finishes 23rd. Shout out to him. And then one of the Harry Higgs. Did you know Harry Higgs finished ahead of Scottie Scheffler at strokes gained approach? There's a bar bet you never. No shit. Never. Yes, Harry Higgs finished ahead of Scheffler in strokes gains approach. And then I got to ask you this one: if Tiger is not in the Masters, if he decides not to play, does this go down as one of the more boring Masters ever?
Probably. I mean, Scheffler took the lead on Friday, and you just felt like it was over. So there was barely any drama at the top. So yeah, what other storyline would there have been? That's a great point.
None.
Thank God he did. You're right. It would have been very, very boring. So I'm sure the TV. Well, there's not a lot of advertisers for the Masters, but I'm sure the viewers definitely were happy there was something to talk about, and the broadcasters for that matter. Otherwise, they would have had nothing.
Tiger saved it. He absolutely saved this tournament. Without him, think about what the coverage is in the early groups on Saturday and Sunday. There's nobody you're interested in. Yep. They're struggling for storylines. Tiger saved this one. He really, really did.
Yep. Yes, he did. And hopefully he's back to do it again, whatever tournament he decides to come back to, and we see more of him. But you're right, it was. Listen, I like boring because once Scheffler took the lead, and I had no stress the rest of the week, so it was great for me. But you're right, it probably would have been a boring tournament overall. But first major is in the books. 3 more still to go, and of course we have all the other tournaments in between. And let's start off right there with the RBC Heritage. Now, first I'll say that it's a pretty decent field coming right off of the Masters, better than I guess I was expecting. So that's a good start. We always like to look at the top 10 strokes gained coming into this event. So this is the top 10 total strokes gained over the last 6 months. Once again, Scottie Scheffler was on that list last week, of course. So that's 9 of 14 tournaments so far in 2022 that the winner has come from this list. No surprises here. You got Cam Smith leading the way. I am surprised he is playing and hasn't withdrawn yet. Maybe it happens before Thursday. JT, Cantley, you already mentioned. Morikawa, Lowry, who's been red hot, cashing a nice top 20 on him last week. Henley, first round leader from last week, had a solid week. Fitzy, Connors, both good weeks, and Horschel. So everybody on this list, other than Cantley, and Henley had a decent Sunday and actually won me a matchup at the very end. But everybody on this list actually played pretty well last week, so it'll be interesting to see how they carry that over. But that's your top 10. All the big names there, not a lot of steep prices. Let's talk a little bit about the course and field in general. Andy, let's start with you. What should the viewers know about this week at Harbour Town?
Well, I think one of the reasons we're seeing a decent field at this tournament is when the PGA kind of changed the rules about how many tournaments you have to play in a year, and also playing tournaments that you didn't play the year before. So if you kind of look like 3 or 4 years ago, there wasn't a ton of big name guys, but over the last 3 years, they've added a lot of people, I think, because of that. And also, don't forget about that RBC sponsor. This is this is one of those tournaments where you're sponsored by a certain couple companies. You're playing in this tournament, and also it's a great tournament. It's a great tournament to kind of check off the list of I played in a certain amount of tournaments. It's just right up. It's just right up the East Coast there. So as far as Harbour Town, challenging course, a little bit surprising about how challenging it is. I would also say be careful about handicapping previous results. I believe 2020, they moved it to June. They had some different weather. So just a little bit of that. And then last year, I believe we had some weather issues. So just keep an eye on some of the if you're looking at guys that missed the cut, like for example, Fleetwood had just a horrible back nine on Thursday, but besides that chunk of the tournament, he played great. I think the wind picked up on him and a few other guys. So, but hard to hit greens. Traditionally, this is one of the harder courses to hit greens. It's almost like upside down bowls or crowns. They're small. It's not a course you can overpower. There's penalties off the tee behind trees. And so this isn't a brute force. So I'm looking at guys that are good on approaches and guys that are accurate off the tee. I'm not looking at distance. Distance is one of the last things I will look at. Weather appears to be okay, should be pretty fair across the board. So those are my takeaways. Approaches and accuracy off the tee, 2 big stats for me this week.
Yeah, 100% agree on approach, greens and regulation, proximity to the hole. These are, you mentioned the greens, they're hard to hit. They're 3,700 square feet, which the smallest on tour is Pebble Beach at 3,500. So they are not far behind. These are one of the smallest average green size on that these guys play all year. So it is definitely a second shot course. I was also interested to, as I was kind of researching and reading, that this time of year, I don't know what the case was when they played in June, but this time of year, the rough is really non-existent. It'll be lucky to reach an inch in length, so it is not penalizing off the tee. Distance doesn't really matter. It's not a long course, so I agree with you there. But it is about positioning, which could be in the rough, but it is about positioning into that for that second shot into the green. So you gotta get the right angles, and again, you want to look at guys that are in those categories of greens and reg. Proximity to the hole, I think, is going to be a big one, and one factor that probably doesn't play or matter as much this week is people that are worse at putting it kind of hides it a little bit when you have these smaller greens. So maybe that's a stat you could kind of, I don't want to say overlook completely, but maybe ignore a little bit this week. The other thing I'll mention here is as I was doing my research, we have kind of, a different avenue of players here. You got guys coming off the major last week, right at Augusta. You have guys that played and maybe they didn't make the cut, they didn't play well, or they played and they were in contention all week. And then, of course, you have guys that didn't play at all. But looking back over the last 10 years, I was reading an article, and there really is no correlation to who performs well here out of that group. I mean, you had a mixed bag of results. About half of the field in the top 5 had either played or didn't play. So there was really no advantage one way or the other. So it's hard to kind of pinpoint whether they played or not. So I just wanted to throw that out there if you're trying to figure that out. It doesn't see, at least history suggests there's no advantage one way or the other. So you can probably have a little bit of both mixed in your bag for this week. So let's move into our some of our bets for the week. As I mentioned, I'm looking at iron players this week, and I'm kind of going against who might be a bad putter. And I think one of the biggest names in that avenue or that aspect is Colin Morikawa. He's not a sexy number this week by any means. He's only 13-1, but I mean, we all know him as one of the best pure ball strikers on tour. His putting has been something that has been a very tough thing for him. He was 178th on tour putting last year. He's 31st this year, so it is a huge improvement. Even though I'm saying don't worry about his putting this week, it has gone in the right direction. But his approach game is very, very good. Right now he ranks 20th strokes gained approach, 10th in greens to regulation, and 5th in proximity from the fairway. So very good second shot player. He had a very good showing last week at Augusta. Shot 67 on Sunday to shoot up the leaderboard and finish solo 5th. He buried the chip in on the 72nd hole right after Rory. That was pretty cool to see those guys knocking in bunker shots right after that, or right on top of each other. But his results have been very, very solid as well. He hasn't necessarily won on the PGA Tour recently, but he did have a win at the DP World Tour Championship in November, and he now has 6 finishes inside the top 7 in his last 10 starts. So pretty solid all the way around. Again, not a sexy number here. Probably a guy you could look at for other ways to play him, maybe a top 10 plus 150, or even just a matchup. He's going to be paired against some of the other big names this week, but I think he has a good chance of being one of the best. So Colin Morikawa, I like to come out well this week. Andy, let's go to you. I know you always love to talk about the guys you like to avoid. So who are your guys that can trip you up this week?
Pretty good last week. I said Tiger Woods. He did make the cut. But in the end, he didn't. If you had him in your daily fantasy lineups, I think he lost you points on the weekend, unfortunately, with the way that they score. Xander Schauffele was a guy I said could trip you up. He definitely tripped everyone up. And Patrick Cantlay finished 39th. I had him listed. I think that's a little bit of a disappointment with him. So players that can trip you up this week, these are guys that I think people are going to be on, and I would say just be careful. I'll start with Daniel Berger. Berger comes in and he's finished 13th and 3rd the last 2 years here, but his finishes have gotten worse the last 4 weeks. He's gone from 4th to 13th to 35th to 50th, and I got some red flags. He's minus 1.02 strokes gained tee to green and 0.37 strokes gained approach the last 2 tournaments. That is not good for this course. Got a couple of really good finishes the last 2 years, but I think that could be deceiving based on his last 2 tournaments. If he struggles tee to green and strokes gained approach, you're not going to get value from him. Second one might be a little bit obvious, but I'll just throw him out there. Cameron Smith. If he does play, it's a really good chance that he might be checked out this week after blowing up on that horror show that is that 155-yard par 3. How hard could it be, right, Nick? Finished 9th at this tournament last year, but he missed the cut in the previous 2. He's priced way too high with the chance that he's not interested. I think he does play this week. He took like 3 weeks off after winning the Players, so I think if he signed up for this tournament, he's going to play in it just to check one off the list. And then finally, I have to throw this one out there. Stuart Sink. Don't put him in your daily fantasy lineups because he won last year, okay? This was his only top 20 finish here in well over a decade. He's missed the cut in 4 out of 6 tournaments, including missing the cut at the Masters, despite having a hole-in-one. And he still missed the cut. There's going to be people out there that, he's really cheap on daily fantasy. He won this last year. Don't do it. He's a 3-time winner at this course, but it was back in like 2000, 2004, and 2021. Stay away from much better options than Stuart Sink.
I'm glad you said Stuart Sink because I have him circled like 85 times. So now I've made up my mind that I won't choose him this week. I don't understand. He won twice last year. How did that? It just bizarre to me that he came back and did that. So, and I'm also glad. In all honesty, I'm glad he said Berger because I was feeling like last night as I was choosing some of my my outrights. I'm like, I was looking at him. I'm like, you know what? A couple results here were good, but just nothing that sexy coming in. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do it. So I'm glad you backed me up and said avoid him. So I have so far, and I will heed your advice and not play him this week. Thank you. You've been very good with those plays. So I will be right there with you. I'm going to look at another outright for the week. This one is Corey Connors, who for the third straight Masters had a fantastic tournament. The only worry for me coming in here is this is his fourth straight week teeing it up. But I guess he figures he's playing very well, so why not keep it going? He's finished no worse than tied for 35th in his last 5 starts, including a tie for 11th at the Players, third at the WGC Dell Match Play, and that tie for 6th last week at Augusta. So some very good finishes, some very tough tracks and deep fields. He ranks 3rd on tour this year, greens and regulation, 7th strokes gained off the tee, 15th strokes gained tee to green. His putting has left something to be desired, number 104 strokes gained putting. But as I mentioned earlier, that metric probably doesn't carry as much weight this week due to the small greens. He did miss the cut here in his first 3 starts, but he's a much different player now than he was back then. He's since finished tied for 21st in 2020 and tied for 4th here last year. So he's riding a hot streak. Again, perhaps there's a fatigue issue with this being his 4th straight tournament, but he's playing too well for me to ignore. So I thought he was a good play on the outright market at 26-1 in a field that I think he's definitely one of the favorites to go at. It was a decent number. So Corey Connors is my play there. DraftKings Darlings, Andy, another segment you've been very, very good with. Who are the underpriced guys you're looking at this week to fill your lineups?
Oh, I love Corey Connors. He was minus 200 top Canadian. I think we had that one. I think he won by like 16 shots. It was something insane. I mean, it was pretty easy. And he was one of our DraftKings Darlings last week. So we had Kevin Na, he finished 14th, Siwoo Kim 39th, and Corey Connors 6th. I would say you could argue and I would say the DraftKings lineups I gave out in the Masters pack might have been the highlight. The biggest one was the one I gave it on the show. I'm looking at it right now. Rahm, Cameron Smith, Fitzpatrick, Corey Connors, Siwoo Kim, Kevin Na, they all made the cut. You're going to cash almost every time if you get a lineup with all those. So let's talk guy week. First one, Anand Lahiri at 7,100. I've talked before about he finished runner-up. The Players talked about how he changed the weight of his irons. I bought in after the Players. I bet on him at the Valero, and he finished 13th. They have not adjusted the price for him. I'll bet on him again this week. If his irons have really, truly improved, I think we can keep cashing on this guy in head-to-heads as well as DraftKings lineups. Also going to add Sepp Straka at 7,200. Finished 30th last week in the Masters. That's 8 made cuts out of 9 tournaments for him. He's played here the last 2 years, made the cut in both. So we're getting a steal at that one. And off the beaten path, Dylan Fratelli at 7,400. This surprised me. He's made the cut in 5 straight PGA tournaments. That is great for him. That's easily a career best on this tour, including an 8th at the Valero. He has played here 3 times, and he's never missed the cut, including an 8th place finish in 2020. So I'll build my lineup with Lahiri, Fratelli, and Straka, and that leaves me with enough money to put in Russell Henley, who's now made 15 cuts in a row on the PGA Tour. Wow. And then 2 guys, you and I love, Nick, Matthew Fitzpatrick and Shane Lowry. So great lineups available this week.
Yeah, Lowry's got to win sooner rather than later. I mean, he's one of the hottest players. I mean, obviously nobody talks about him because you got Scotty doing what he's doing, and even Cam Smith for that matter. But Lowry is definitely one of them. But we'll call it quietest hot player on tour. Just time after time again, he's up there in the mix. That's a good lineup. Yeah, Fratelli, I will agree, is a surprise to me. I'm not surprised with Lahiri or Straka being on your list, but Fratelli I probably wouldn't even glanced at, to be honest, any other way. So I'm glad you brought him up. I'll take a further look at him this week myself. Let's get into our best bets for the week. Mine is a leaderboard bet. I had a good couple ones last week, although Hovland, like I said, screwed me. But this week, I am looking at Sungjai Im, coming off a good finish last week at the Masters. He was the first round leader, of course, and carried that all the way to a tie for 8th. He is as consistent as they come on tour. He does have 2 missed cuts this year and 14 starts, but that's it. He's got 8 top 20s, including, like I said, last week at the Masters. He ranks 17th strokes gained off the tee, 12th strokes gained green, and 14th tee to green. He also ranks 18th greens in regulation, 4th in scrambling, and has the 13th best scoring average this season. So in so many areas, Im is a top 20 player on tour statistically. So it just kind of makes sense to back him to finish top 20 in a field that is void of many of the top players in the world. Not a completely weak field, but still, there's still a lot of big names not here. So he's definitely one of the top 20 players in this field. So plus 160, I thought was a great price to get on him. That probably drops as we get closer to tee off on Thursday, but Sungjai Im top 20 is my best bet of the week. Andy, bring us home. What are you looking at for your best bet this week?
I'm going to go with Joel Dahman over Davis Riley, and we've brought up Davis Riley another time before. We brought him up in players that can trip you up after his second place finish at the Valspar, and sure enough, he regressed back to his normal finishing position. He finished 63rd his very next tournament he played at the Valero. So Davis Riley's second place finish, that was his only top 40 finish of the season, so I don't see him having a great performance this week. Dahman's made 4 cuts in a row before the Corrales. He shot a 71 in the first round, then had to withdraw with an illness. So Dahman's played here twice, made the cut both times. Riley's never played here, so I get good experience from Dahman, an advantage there. And Dahman's better this year in driving accuracy, strokes gained approach, and greens and regulation. 3 stats I think we find very important this week. So I think Davis Riley is being a little bit overvalued. They're still looking at this runner-up position. I don't buy it. So give me Joel Dahman over Davis Riley pretty easy this week.
Got to bet the hat, man. He's got the cool bucket hat. And I don't know, does he still have the stash? He's got the stash, right? Or did he shave that last time he played? I don't even know, but I like Dahman's look. I'm on board with you there. Sometimes you just got to go with like the NCAA tournament. You just got to pick based on the mascot or the color or, how nice the guy's mustache is. And he's
props,
got a pretty decent
hats, facial hair. Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you.
I love it. Any last notes for the viewers this week on the Heritage?
Well, I got a question for you. It's almost a little philosophical question. Is golf dynasty proof right now? Is it? I'm finding it hard to find. I'm finding it hard for a player to take over, like a Tiger did, like a Jack did. I mean, you got John Rahm looked like a world beater. Now it's Scheffler's time to shine. I feel like the talent. I feel like we're so top heavy, which I believe is a good thing. I love it, but I can't look at golf right now and say, oh, this one guy is going to dominate for the next 3 or 4 years. Is this one of the more top heavy times that we've seen in golf?
Says Andy as Scotty wins 4 of the last 6 tournaments. But wait, ask me again in 6 months because it has happened before. You're right. So I think the sustained success is what's hard. I mean, there's so many good players that listen. I golf. I can go a month without making a double bogey, and then I can go a month without making a birdie. So, it's like you get into these ebbs and flows, and these guys obviously are the best in the world. They know how to ride them very well, but they get into funks just like anybody else. Now, their funk level may be significantly better than any level we could ever imagine, but still, on that kind of a level, it's enough to get them, like a Cantley, who was red hot in the fall, won the FedEx Cup, started off this year. I don't know how he didn't win, but he had 4 straight weeks where he had a chance to win. And then now the last 2 months, it's like he's forgotten about. And honestly, from a betting standpoint, those are the guys, they're too good not to turn around at some point. Those are guys that can present value down the road. I agree. I'm not looking at them this week, but I think to answer your question is just the sustained, I can't even say that, sustained success and being that good and that elite for that long and this deep of a field that we have now is tough. I mean, Tiger to do it, he kind of set the bar, and all the players that are playing today are because of him, let's face it. So he raised the level of the game to the point of what we're seeing now, and I agree. I think it's probably you're going to have guys like we see that are clearly better than the rest, but I don't think we'll ever see somebody just dominate at that level for as long as he did anytime soon. But listen, these short, hot streaks, they're going to come and they're going to go. It'll be interesting to see how Scotty deals with this over the next month, 2 months, rest of the season. I mean, he could probably sit out the rest of this year into the FedEx Cup is the number one player going in, or very, very close. But we'll see how he handles it. But it's definitely fun for golf, and it makes betting. It gives you a lot of good value opportunities because you can find guys that are just a little bit, like I said, maybe 2 or 3 weeks in a row. You're like, what happened to him? But they're too good to stay off forever. So, good question. We'll see what happens as we move forward. As we end today, I do want to remind everybody of our promo for the Heritage. Promo code Heritage20 saves you $20 off this week's tournament pack for either Andy or myself. $39. Get it for just $19. Includes all our plays for the 4 days. Hopefully, we can follow up last week's Master success with another winning week this week. And I want to thank everybody again for tuning in. What do we have? I always forget to prepare my sign off on saying, "Oh, we'll see you next week for the." What the hell is next week, Andy? Do you know?
I don't even know. Here, I can tell you. I can tell you real quick. So we just finished up the Masters. We
will see you next week for
the Zurich.
The Zurich Classic.
Oh God.
Yeah, that might be a bad one. But you know what?
We might be off next week.
We will show up. No, listen, you and I will show up again next week because we do it every week. Last week I felt like there was a lot of Masters professionals out there that I haven't heard from in a long time. But you know what? You and I will do the grind, and we will be here next week because that's what we do. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. Make sure to head over to WagerTalk.com to check out either one of myself or Andy's packages for the week. We will see you next week for the Zurich. And as always, good luck with your bets.